Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Coming of Cage podcast, your Nicolas Cage movie review podcast. I am your host, Derek, and I've got my co host, Ryan, with me.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back, man. This is our first recorded episode in like a month.
Yeah, so the National Treasure episode that came out a couple weeks ago, we recorded before we went on break, and then we took a break to kind of support the strike that's happening, and also Derek had some personal vacation type stuff happening.
Woo!
And so yeah, we're back recording again, and it feels so good.
So good. Yeah, I missed
So
it.
Derek, you kind of had a special vacation. You planned a trip to Las Vegas, which is, like I mentioned in our chat earlier, essentially Jerusalem for Nicolas Cage worshippers like us, and you wanted to go there and pay your respects and do your worshiping as close to the Lord as you can. Did you have a good time? What did you did you feel closer to Nic Cage than ever while you were there?
I had a good time. It was really cool. It was, so for those who don't know, it was my anniversary slash long delayed honeymoon, and I didn't get to go to his mansion where he's got his Komodo dragon and all that, but I did get to do two things that were Cage adjacent. One is I got to see Nicolas Cage the wax version of Nicolas Cage inside the wedding chapel at Madame Tussauds in Vegas, and I got some photos with that. That was pretty great. It was good to see him. He's just right there, right in the middle of ready to marry anybody who comes in, which is cool.
His
Uh,
likeness looked better than some of the other ones you posted. So
his was good, not the best. There were a few that were like spectacular,
yeah,
and some that were not very good. His was more in the middle, I would
it was
say.
better than the
But
one of him in the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
that's true. That's
But that one
definitely
was
true.
made to look bad. So
Yeah, yeah. This one was not grotesque. It was good. It
so
was.
what's the second Cage adjacent thing?
So the second thing was on our last day there. So we stayed on the strip at Caesars, but on the last day we managed to get out to Old Vegas to Fremont Street. Where they've got, it's covered and you've got the lights and everything. And so we kind of were in the area of where Nicolas Cage crashes the airplane in Con Air. And so that's the closest I've ever been to a Nicolas Cage movie set since I've
Pretty
never been to
cool.
Alcatraz or anything like that. So that was cool, just kind of feeling a little bit closer to that era of film, leaving Las Vegas. A lot of it took place more in old Vegas, not really the core, strip area like it is today. So just
I was
feeling a
kind
little
of
bit.
hoping you were going to get a video of yourself in a liquor store, doing the little dance thing that he does when he's buying alcohol. That would
No,
have been
that
great.
that didn't happen. I didn't, no liquor stores. We just kind of walked around, and we did hit up. There's a movie prop place on Fremont Street that you, Ryan, have donated a movie prop to.
I didn't donate it, but yeah, I did. I
Well,
did previously
trade,
own. I
you
did
know.
previously own a prop that is now in that museum. Yes. Did they have any Nic Cage?
No, no Nick Cage
Wonder.
stuff. I was kind of hoping I'd see a little bit of something there, to tie it all together at the end, but
A
no
lot of
luck.
his stuff is in private collections, so
Probably in
whatever.
his collection, really.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of stuff out there, but yeah, maybe some of it is.
Yeah.
I There is one other Cage adjacent thing that happened, also vacation adjacent. When you came home from this trip, you started having visions of Nic Cage in your house,
Oh
I
God.
believe.
Right. No, I almost forgot my buddy here. So for those who are watching our show, you can watch our show. We have a video version of the podcast. I am holding Pickle's Cage, Nicolas Cage's face on a pickle, and this is the large one that I
Yeah.
have here. And we have an indeterminate number of smaller Pickle's Cages that we have been giving to my toddler daughter, and she loves them. She just runs around the house saying Pickles, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Lord comes to us in mysterious ways.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know
Who
where
knows
they
how they
came
got
from.
there? Yeah, I mean,
They
it's
just
just,
appeared, maybe
yeah,
each time I was close to Nick, then I just, one just generated in my
could
house.
be.
And,
Yeah, I mean,
you
but
know,
either way, you're very, very lucky to be having such a blessing in your life.
yeah, yeah, I'm going to have a
Anyway, we
little.
should probably get to the we should probably get to the actual. This is really fun for our listeners seeing what's happening
Well,
right
this is why we have the video version. You can go to
now. Special
comingofcage.com if you
content.
want to watch that, and see the weird stuff that we do sometimes.
That's
So,
right.
all right, we'll move on. We'll move on. What
You
movie
sound
are
so
we talking
sad.
about? What are we doing?
This is one that I've tried to get you to watch for a long time, not because of Nicolas Cage, but just because I had a feeling you would like it. Teen Titans Go to the Movies,
Yes.
which came out. I don't remember what year. I need to pull it up on IMDb, which I usually do for these, but I haven't done that yet.
2018.
2018, so not that long ago, really.
No.
Um, Kind of in a weird spot for DC movies in general. If you compare some of those other movies that were coming out around that time, and they definitely used some of those as some of the humor in the film. Um, but yeah, this is one a lot of Teen Titans Go stuff is very controversial in the community, but I tend to enjoy it. And Derek hadn't really watched any Teen Titans Go content before this. You had watched the old cartoon and
Yeah.
have consumed some other Teen Titans stuff. But yeah, this is your first time watching Teen Titans Go, that incarnation of it. And yeah, the Nicolas Cage plays Superman. It's a pretty small role. I think he maybe has 6 or 7 lines throughout the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
But he is the main motivation. The things he says is the main motivation for the movie. So
Yeah, he does kind of kick it all off. And then there's a few other interesting, voice actors. Will Arnett and Kristen Bell are in there, which is kind of cool.
Almost all the original actors for the Teen Titans are back as voice actors for this. That's one thing that a lot of the old Teen Titans fans don't know, is that all the Teen Titans Go characters pretty much have the same voice actors as they did back in the original cartoon.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And like the reason I didn't watch Teen Titans Go is because I legitimately thought it was just made for a younger audience, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I didn't think it was made for, 30 something, mid 30s guy kind of thing. So I just kind of let it be,
Right.
off on its own.
Even
So
though I told you it was, anyway, we're not going to get into that
I
because
believed you. I just never got around to it at that point.
so we do want to give a little bit of a warning because Derek and I are very serious about our DC films in general. At least we were up until recently, when they self-collapsed. They collapsed under themselves like the weight of a dying star. And so we may get into the weeds on DC stuff. This is probably going to be more of a movie review than a Nic Cage discussion. So with that said, I'm still looking forward to this because this is one I've wanted to discuss with you for a while. It also has been a little bit of time since we watched it, so there may be some memory lapses for one or both of us because we had some illnesses and things that were going on that delayed the production of this episode. But hopefully we remember at least something about whatever my notes were about. And if I didn't notate everything because usually I only notate things that really stand out. In this movie, it was a little bit of a different kind of movie. So I don't have as many notes. So feel free to throw some stuff out there if there's something I missed that you want to talk about.
Sounds good. Let's
All
do it,
right.
man. Let's do it.
So my first note for Teen Titans Go to the Movie is sentient boom boxes walking around and nobody caring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're getting like this kind of intro. This movie was made so that somebody that doesn't know anything about Teen Titans Go could come in and be not that far behind. And so they're kind of doing an introduction to the team, and they have to fight this giant balloon villain.
Balloon, yeah,
Um,
balloon. Was he called Balloon Man?
no, it was Inflatable Destroyer, I think.
Okay.
But which I don't know if it's an actual DC character. It's not that outlandish compared to some of the other concepts in DC. So, but yeah, it's showing like a bunch of people walking in the streets and things like that, and then there's just randomly a sentient boombox and a one of the Robin wingdings or whatever they're called flying next to it, and they're just kind of floating there and moving around, and it doesn't bother anybody, which I thought was interesting. But
So according to the power of Google, Balloon Man was created for this movie.
Inflatable Destroyer.
Apparently, his name is Balloon Man.
Oh, I don't know. I have Inflatable Destroyer written down, so maybe that was just a description of what he is.
It might have been, yeah.
That was
Yeah,
my next.
he's credited as Balloon Man in IMDb. So
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, I thought it was
Uh,
kind of a fun villain, like definitely like more of a tongue-in-cheek, silly kind of villain that
sure.
we're not ever going to see like a live action version of or anything.
No,
Felt
and kids would love that
yeah,
type of villain. So
but I thought it was fun. It was good.
yeah. So then we get a fart joke. Of course, they like
Sure.
throw a wing ding or a robin rang or whatever it's called, and pierces one of his butt cheeks, and there a bunch of air starts shooting out, and they make a fart joke, which of course. And then one of the things that I really thought you were going to like about this film is that they won't ever do in a serious DC production is they went heavy on Marvel references and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of shout outs to the Marvel side, which is unusual in a DC project. And the first one of those we get in this movie is they reference Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. So what I think is really interesting in this, they're so meta in this that they kind of exist outside of all of our other realities, right? So it's like they know that there are Marvel and DC movies,
Yeah,
but they're also being made in their universe by their heroes. And so that does beg the question of, do the Avengers exist somewhere else on the planet and we just haven't seen them? And they're
it's
also
possible.
making their own movies like the Justice League are. That's
Certainly
my big
possible.
takeaway from this movie is that
Wow, that's it, huh? So they're going through and naming a bunch of superhero groups. I think this is one of those spots where I don't remember super well, and they mention Guardians of the Galaxy, and they say no, we're not them or whatever, something like that. And that's I think when they start the song.
yeah, they have a
So they
song.
think they defeated the balloon guy, and the real Justice League comes in and defeats the balloon guy. And
While the
while they're
Teen
singing a
Titans are
song
singing.
about who they are. That's their
Yeah.
introduction. Yeah, and they think they defeated him, but in reality, the actual Justice League came in and defeated them. And then that's when we get our first shot of Superman Nic Cage. What did you think hearing his voice coming out of Superman? Was it jarring for you? Was it good? What would you think?
It was weird, mainly because while I do think that when he was younger, I would have really liked to have seen Superman Lives, the live action Superman movie he was supposed to do. I think it's important to tailor the design of Superman a little bit more to the voice actor. And this Superman doesn't look right for that voice. And maybe it's because
You weren't a fan.
I don't really care for this version of Superman, like the design. I don't think he looks right. I don't know. There's something weird. I don't know. There's just something about his design, mainly in the face, that just feels weird. And so it didn't match for me. I think
Yeah,
if they had given him like maybe the 90s mullet design,
that would have been good. Yeah.
right, maybe a little more chiseled. Like I know it's Teen Titans Go and everything like that, but I just
Well,
think
they
that
do have super serious. I mean, you get to see Robin's super serious version later in the
that's
movie,
true.
but like
Yeah.
in the actual cartoon, they have one where the Teen Titans, or maybe it's one of the other movies. The other teen, oh no, the Young Justice shows up in one of the episodes, like animated like Young Justice, like the
Mhm.
show,
Well, there
and
is
tells
the
them that they can't be taken seriously, and so they all get those super serious, like hyper masculine faces, like Robin gets in this movie, and
yeah.
it is hilarious. If you get the chance to watch that episode, you really should. It's very good.
Well, because there is also the Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans.
Yes, yeah. And
So
that's
that's
teased at the end of this movie in the post-credit scene.
yeah. So that's you're saying that this is in addition to that.
This is in
Okay,
just a normal episode of the show that was
gotcha.
on Cartoon Network or whatever. They run into Young Justice.
That's so I love Young Justice.
And they're animated just like they were. It's that this show is so meta
That's
in
really
DC
cool.
stuff. Yeah, and they know that like the old Teen Titans fan hate Teen Titans Go, and so in Teen Titans versus Teen Titans Go or whatever it is, they poke fun at that quite a bit. And
Mhm.
there's several episodes of the show where they go hyper meta with it too. They actually have a person that's one of these audience member that hates them like show up in the show and like from the message board, and he looks just like you anyway.
Yeah,
That doesn't have anything to do with the movie, but yeah, they're very meta, and yeah, I'm glad you got a taste of that in this movie.
there's a line though going back to Superman, right? And our Nic Cage here, where he keeps using the word goofsters, which is not a word I ever thought I would hear Nic Cage say.
But once you heard it, you
It
kind
was
of love it.
great. It was
Yeah.
so great. I could like, maybe this is just because like, you know, we're watching it for this podcast, but I couldn't help but trying to picture him in the booth
Oh yeah.
doing these lines.
I did the
And
same thing.
I want to watch that so bad because I think that would be
He
really
probably had
fun.
so much fun.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. Like,
Yeah.
because there is this sense of joy that like you can tell he's glad to be there, even
Yeah,
if the role is small.
this was before the he probably never thought he would be Superman after that movie
Right. Right.
failed. And then now he does get to come back as Superman. Granted, it's in a much different context. And
Mm-hmm.
then of course since then he's been in the Flash movie with no lines. So I don't think we'll be reviewing that one because he doesn't have any lines. It's just like a visual cameo. But
Yeah.
yeah, so he probably thought this was the like his one shot to voice Superman, and so I'm sure he just really like relished it. And
Mm-hmm.
also his son
Yeah.
voices somebody. I can't remember who. Oh, young Bruce Wayne.
Which I thought was kind of cute
Yeah,
that
I
that
didn't
he
know
brought
that
his
until
son
the
in.
credits rolled.
Yeah.
So then we get a Green Lantern movie dig, and I mean, this is you're going to hear Derek. Well, if you listen to our other podcast, Screen Heroes, you would have heard Derek complain a lot about like easy targets on DC movies, and this movie definitely hit all those easy targets. I thought it was funny still, especially in the context of the movie because it's a kids movie. That joke, a joke about the Green Lantern movie is clearly not meant for the kids. You know what I mean?
But I think context matters though, right? Like here you have John Stewart Green Lantern making a reference to an actual live action movie
Right.
that he's not even in, right? That really existed, but they're referencing it in this children's cartoon. Like that's okay. Like that's funny. I get kind of defensive when it's done in like clickbaity headlines in the real world,
Gotcha.
doing things that are
You're
just kind
saying
of,
you're okay with it in this context. Did you
yeah.
laugh?
If you're doing things to be meta and satirical, right, and it's supposed to be comedic, the whole point, right? Like this is still it's a DC property. They are making fun of themselves,
Yeah.
right? And that also matters. If you're picking on yourself, you're acknowledging the mistakes you've made in a humorous way. That's very different than, clickbaity headlines.
So did you laugh at that
I
joke?
did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. I was hoping you would. So we get kind of that. This is kind of the crux of the movie, right? Is that Robin wants his own movie,
Right.
and Superman and all the Justice League is getting ready to go to Batman's new movie premiere, and that's when Nic Cage calls them goofsters, and that they're that they're never going to be taken seriously because they're just goofsters, and so Robin decides to go to Hollywood, blah blah blah. So the Batman movie is called Batman Again. Which was so funny to me.
I do think they might have taken the Batman spinoff joke a little too far later.
Really? Dude, my next note was that this is so accurate to Warner Brothers that they would make a movie about Batman's utility belt or the Batmobile or Alfred before they make a movie for another hero.
But here's the thing: do you know about the Batmobile cartoon?
Yes, they actually have a Batmobile cartoon.
They did it,
but
I've watched
they
it.
did not during when this movie was.
It's not bad. I've watched it with my daughter because it's kind of more for like young kids, like really young kids, like Cars, right? It's actually not bad.
And I'm going to be honest, I would probably watch a movie about the Batmobile or about Batman's utility belt or about Alfred. And actually, funny enough,
Alfred,
they did actually make an Alfred show after this movie came out. So this movie correctly predicted
at least two
of those three movies.
At least.
And we could still get the Batman utility belt movie.
So oh my God. I guess this is jumping ahead a little bit, I guess, but like the scene where Batman is chasing them and they're in the golf cart, and
oh god,
the Batmobile blows up, so then he's on the tumbler, and the tumbler blows up, then he's on like a little razor scooter, and then that blows up, and then he's on Alfred. Oh god,
so good,
so funny.
Yeah, it was so funny. But yeah, all those movies, movie previews were hilarious, and of course, Robin, they sneak into the theater.
Yeah.
They get rid of some other obscure DC character. They portal them to the Phantom Zone.
So I had to look them up because they're called the Challengers of the Unknown. And what's interesting that they picked these guys, they were created by Jack Kirby. So this is another Marvel kind of
Very meta.
tangential reference here, right? Like they're a DC property, but they were
Yeah.
created by Jack Kirby, and they're basically the Fantastic Four, but before the Fantastic Four. He later created the Fantastic Four. So this is like super deep cut. This is as deep cut as you can get, I think, in
And
comics.
they did have some pretty big deep cuts in this movie, and they
Mhm.
do in general in Teen Titans Go. But the fact that you had to go look them up and had never heard of them, that says something. Because as far as my friend group, you're definitely by far the biggest DC fan,
It was
which you
cool.
probably
Like
wouldn't admit of recent, but when this movie came out, you would have.
it was really neat. Like they throw so many references into these shots, like just like when they're panning across like the studio lot or
Oh yeah,
whatever,
the
right?
movie theater
There,
with all
yeah, like
the heroes in there.
there are so many characters.
Swamp Thing shows up in the movie theater.
It's
I don't know
great.
why that cracks me up every time.
It's so great. Like it was just really, really, really well done. Like if you wanted to pause frame by frame, like there's just something in like almost every shot of this movie that's worth taking note.
Yeah, absolutely. And my next note, I don't really remember the context of. Oh, I do actually. So they talk about why Robin won't get a movie, and I can't remember who helps them decide this, but they say that he needs a arch nemesis, essentially.
Right.
And they talk about all these people's arch nemesis. Superman has Lex Luthor, Batman has Joker, and Flash has Rainbow Rider.
That was pretty funny.
Which is another deep cut. I mean, that's a super deep cut too. But
so that was Jade, Kristen Bell's character, Jade
right.
Wilson. Which
Jade Wilson, which no DC fan would ever pick up on. There might be an alternate thing going on there.
I can't decide if that was worth it for the joke or if that just kind of ruins the twist of the movie for most of the audience.
I think they knew who they were making the movie for. So
Yeah. Okay.
But I
Okay.
mean, if it was funny to you, then I'd say it worked.
Okay. I thought it was funny. I did. I love that it was Kristen Bell. I'm a huge Kristen Bell fan, so that was cool.
Who isn't?
Right.
So then they're like, okay, we gotta get a villain, and so they get a crime alert on their little crime pad, and they go and go to this crime, and it's Deathstroke, right? But at this point, nobody knows who Deathstroke is, and they keep calling him Deadpool, which is again a Marvel reference, but just a really funny one because he's so offended, and they compare him to Deadpool. He's like, yeah, you have the two swords, and you make like the quippy lines, and you've got the two-tone suit, and like all these things that are similar because those characters have been compared for forever. And Deadpool came out way after Deathstroke did, so Deathstroke was actually the first one, but most people would know Deadpool over Deathstroke.
Well, especially since Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Deathstroke hasn't had a big live action movie. He's been in a couple of the shows.
We were so close.
He's been in the Titans movie or Titans show, and he's been in Arrow.
Joe Manganiello was supposed to play him in the Batman movie with Affleck, and I think that was a huge wasted opportunity.
Agreed. But it's he's never gotten that big break like Deadpool has. So that was just a huge, hilarious moment for me. He was just arguing with him about how he's not Deadpool. But this is two DC characters arguing in universe about this other Marvel character. Again, it goes back to your original big question from the movie. And then apparently in this, maybe this is a deeper cut than what I'm familiar with, but he has mind manipulation powers, which is basically doing really terrible magic tricks and distracting them. But the Teen Titans Go, being the goofsters that they are, they fall for him.
It's so funny. Like, what's that? What's that behind you? What's that over there?
No, I'm serious. There's something really, really happening back there. You're gonna miss it. Yeah, and it works, of course. I don't remember the context for this either. But then we get the Lion King superhero song, and Batman's holding Robin. Oh, it's a dream. It's a nightmare that Robin has. Yeah. He's holding back. We get this really goofy looking Batman holding Robin up like Simba in the Lion King while this superhero version of the Lion King score is playing. And it's just pretty funny. So then we get this inspirational song about life that's also part of the dream.
Mm-hmm.
With was it a unicorn or a bear with a unicorn horn or something like that? I don't remember. You remember that what I'm talking about?
No. I don't remember that at all.
It was voiced by Michael Bolton. He sings the song
Oh, right. Yeah, Michael
about like
Bolton.
about yeah.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
fun.
I actually
Yeah,
put that
yeah,
in my
yeah.
notes. Inspirational song about life. Is that Michael Bolton?
And it
Because I was
is.
like, it sounds like Michael Bolton,
It
which is
totally
great that
is.
they got Michael Bolton
Oh
for
man.
that. And then Starfire playing the saxophone. During that was hilarious. Yeah, just like that whole sequence was hilarious. But it ends up being a nightmare for Robin, if I remember, because like
Hmm.
the Michael Bolton's character like dies really terribly or something.
Well, and the
Um,
whole thing's in that because nobody wants to like nobody takes Robin seriously in the
yeah.
dream either, and so that's his big thing is he wants to be taken seriously, you know.
And then we do get after he wakes up from this dream and goes back to Hollywood, and he's like convinced that he's just going to ask Jade for a movie. I think this is that point. And when they're on their way there, he's like monologuing. Robin is, and then you
Mhm.
see like a little Stan Lee in the back, like mugging the camera behind everything. And then he eventually like talks to the Teen Titans, and it is Stan Lee. This was
Mhm.
before he passed away. Doing a cameo in this DC project, which is just icing on the cake for all the Marvel references, right? They actually got a Stan Lee cameo.
It's
Um,
wonderful. It really
yeah,
is. Because like I'm one of those people that's like I just like well let's have both,
yeah.
right? So like
And I
it's
think he is too. I think
yeah,
pretty famously, he was like, out, we're not really competing with DC. We're all doing our own thing, go and support both.
right. And so that was just really great. And he's like, I don't care. I love cameo.
Yeah, which he did. I mean,
Yeah.
famously, he talked about it all the time. He just loved doing cameos and even animated cameos, apparently.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then we get another joke that I have to ask if you laughed at. I think you know what it's going to be. The famous scene from Batman v Superman.
Oh,
I don't even
I
remember the context of the joke in this movie.
so what happens is the Titans get
Oh
into the
yeah,
studio where we this is where we learn that the heroes are actually acting
yeah.
as
They're playing
themselves
themselves, yeah,
in the movies,
but not
and
all of them,
no, not
as we
all of
find
them,
out later. Yeah,
right? But some of them, at least the good
right.
guys, right? And so they're doing BVS, and so Batman and Superman are doing the Martha scene, and like I think I never really thought it was like a terrible scene. I thought it worked in the moment in the movie, and it's just the joke's been played to death. So like I
But
kind
you
of
have to
rolled
remember
my
when
eyes
this
at it.
came out.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was 3 years ago. Wow, geez, 5 years
Yeah,
ago. Oh my god.
exactly. And this was only 2 years after BVS, so this was probably one of the first like media recognitions of making fun of that.
Maybe, yeah. I think just by watching it now, though, it was just kind of an eye roll moment for me. Like, I'm not offended by it. It's whatever, but you know,
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I still thought it was funny. I
it's
laugh at
fine.
those jokes anyway. And I don't remember this is Robin. Robin decides he needs a catchphrase.
Oh god, they're so bad.
And his catchphrase is crack an egg on it. And it's just so ridiculous. But he
It's
says it a few
horrible.
times in the movie. Yeah, he's like he's trying to explain to Jade what this movie would be, what a
Mhm.
Robin movie would be. So you get him as like very Batman like animated series style animation, and a couple different kinds of animation really throughout the whole like sequence. But yeah, that's his line, and he says it very seriously in this like very serious Robin movie with lots of explosions, very Michael Bay.
But like, none of the heroes have catchphrases,
No, that's true.
right? So like, I don't know. Like, it's so silly. It's
Well, it's clobbering time. We have that in the Fantastic Four movies.
I guess that's true.
That's about it.
That's about it. I think.
Um, so then she says no. I don't remember what her reason was at this point, but she just says she's not. It doesn't think this is a good idea. And what is it? It's because why would I make a movie of you when there's so many other more interesting superheroes?
Right.
So he decides that he needs to go back. This is obviously what you would get from that comment is that you need to go back in time and make sure there's no other heroes. So then we get an actual Back to the Future score, which
Yeah.
I
Which
thought was a great use of it.
yeah, very cool. That was very cool. I mean, I'm a sucker for that.
Oh
So
yeah, I know you're a score man, but they get like these pedal cars that are their time travel, and they're fueled
little
off of
big wheels.
awesome. Yeah, they're fueled off of awesome, so they have to like do enough tricks to fill the awesome bar. So they're doing like all these ridiculous like X Games style stunts on these like big wheels to go back in time. And the first place they go is Planet Krypton.
Right, because the idea is so their premise, which is flawed, is that superheroes only exist because of their tragic past.
Right.
And so he wants to undo all of the tragic pasts.
Yeah. So the first place they go is Krypton, and so they stop. They tell Superman's parents, Jor-El, and his mother, I don't remember the name of, but it tells them that what kind of parents are they sending this child hurtling through space, and then they have basically a rave playing like these musical crystals, like EDM.
Yeah, somehow that's what stops the planet
That
from
stops
blowing
the
up.
planet from blowing up. I mean, you just have to have a rave.
Yeah.
But it was a funny scene, and yeah, so that stops it. So then they go to like, I think they go to stop Batman.
Yeah.
They tell him, "Why are you going down Crime Alley?" When
Which
like
is funny.
Happiness Lane is right down here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do like that they show a shot of Crime Alley and it's just like a dozen criminals with guns and knives and stuff. You know?
And then the Happiness Alley is like all bright colors and like rainbows and stuff like that. And they're like
funny.
right next to each other.
Yeah. I did like though that they on the marquee it said Mask of Zorro.
Oh,
which yeah, I thought that was interesting that that's the Batman that they were going with specifically.
Right.
But yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. And then you get like a really quick like blink if you miss it TMNT reference in there where they had four turtles and like a thing of ooze was falling at him and like Robin kicks it out of the way.
That was great. I did catch that. Yeah, that was cool.
And then my next one was poop joke. I don't really know. That could have been anything in this movie.
I don't remember.
Kids love poop and fart jokes, so you know, what are you gonna do? Shia LaBeouf is my next note.
Oh yeah, because he's playing. So that's a bit of that jumps ahead a bit. Okay. But he's playing one of the villains. He plays. Oh right, he's playing the Deathstroke in the movie. Right. So he's just got the helmet on, and they think it's actually Deathstroke, and they beat up Shia LaBeouf, and then they find out it's Shia LaBeouf, and they just beat him up more, which was pretty funny. But they basically find out though that by undoing all the superheroes, the world is essentially destroyed. They come back and everything is on fire, literally on fire. So they have to go back and cause
blow up Krypton and send the parents down Crime Alley. And they don't show the ooze hitting the turtles, unfortunately, when they do that. But
then so then they actually do stop Deathstroke from stealing the special gem that he needs, and because of that they now have a real arch nemesis, and Robin can have his movie made.
Right. And my next note is probably something related to that. Superman, Lois Lane, Gene Hackman real estate scam trick. They reference that, which is from one of the original Superman movies.
Yeah, they do reference that. I don't remember
what it was in relation to.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but I do remember the reference. I thought it was a
pretty great reference. Obviously, again, as another reference, clearly not for kids, because no kid's gonna have seen those old,
not too many
Superman
anyway.
movies at 6 years old or 8 years old or whatever. You know.
Well, my daughter will have at least the first two.
We'll see. You won't even show her some of the movies that I recommend that are actually kids movies, so we'll see.
Like what?
Anyway, I'm not going to get into it. That's a tangent. Doomsday streaming device. The Titans come across this device that all the Justice League is helping build after they eat the entire Justice League like
craft service.
Service. They see this device that the Justice League is building, and it just says Doomsday on the side.
And Jade says, I know it's a bad name, but it's like an acronym that stands for like, it's their new streaming platform.
Right. To stream to which is on the nose, you know, maybe back then it wasn't as much on the nose, but now, you know, I think back then that we didn't have as many streaming services as we have now. So it was, it was relevant.
Oh, absolutely.
Now we have all these streaming services and they keep raising prices and, taking things off that you can't ever see again and things like that. So, I think
this hit like right before it all blew up,
which is funny,
very telling.
Yeah, the movie predicted a lot of things, but yeah, this streaming device apparently streams directly into everybody's TVs, and you don't need like a subscription or anything. It just beams these superhero movies straight to you, which again is funny because the whole thing is just to stream superhero movies, which is now again super relevant because as Disney Plus has just had a couple shows come out that have been pretty panned widely because they're just releasing so much content that essentially just overwhelming everybody with superhero content that they're not even watching it anymore. So
right.
It's just another thing that's very relevant in this movie. And then we get our super serious Robin face, because that's what my next note is, super serious Robin face, which is one of my favorite gags from the actual show. He just gets this hyper chiseled, like crazy, doesn't match the animation style at all. It's almost the exact opposite of the animation style. It's such a hideous face.
It kind of reminds me a bit of something that like Ren and Stimpy or Rocko's Modern Life used to do.
Oh yeah, where they went to like hyper realistic.
Yeah.
It is kind of like that, which is a good gag for animated shows. But it's I take it as what Robin views like a real like superhero to look like. They don't look like what his team looks like. They look like these hyper crazy serious things. So yeah, my next note is Slade wearing female director mask.
Yeah, because so that's the big reveal, if you hadn't figured it out already by their names, that he is Jade Wilson, and he's been wearing the Jade mask on top of his helmet
the whole time.
The whole time.
So I gotta ask, because I thought I have my feelings about this, but when they first run into Deathstroke, they don't call him that. They call him Slade. Did you think that was funny? The whole like way they're emphasizing Slade with like the floppy tongues and stuff. Okay.
I mean, it's a little over the top, but that's on purpose. I think it worked.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And then we get a line about Nic Cage having explosive diarrhea, or Superman having explosive diarrhea. I don't know. My next note is Nic Cage explosive diarrhea line.
I must have missed that one.
Well, search through the quotes and see if you can find it.
There aren't that many quotes on IMDb, unfortunately.
Oh, bummer. Well, yeah, he says some line about explosive diarrhea, which I thought was funny. Yeah, and then we get the Batman chase scene that good. Derek was referencing earlier, where he starts out like the animated series Batmobile, and then that gets blown up, and so he's in the Tumbler. Then he's on like the Bat bike, and then that gets blown up, and he's on like a scooter.
It's a little razor scooter, yeah.
And then he's on like roller skates.
Oh right, the roller skates.
And then he's riding Alfred's back, and Alfred's just running really fast. And they were like, I think they make a comment and say like, man, he's really got a contingency for anything, doesn't he? Or something like that.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
And then we get a second Stan Lee cameo.
Oh, right, yeah.
Was good.
They reference the Animaniacs a little bit.
Oh, yeah, they do when they're on Warner Brothers lot.
That's where the Animaniacs live.
Yeah. Which obviously they could do that because Warner Brothers owns those properties too.
Right, yeah, it's all.
And so several times throughout this movie, I thought this was a clever way of dealing with her powers. But if you are a fan of Teen Titans, then you know that Raven is basically way more powerful than anybody else on the team. And sometimes her powers are completely like, they just forget about her powers, right? And so several times in this movie, she just portals somewhere. They're like, how are we ever going to get there? And then she just makes a portal.
Yeah.
And she constantly is commenting about how like, overpowered portals are.
I mean, one of the ways they try and kind of kneecap her a bit in stories in general is that if she uses her powers too much, her father gets involved, and he's the big demon guy, and so
he is involved in the cartoon, like the actual show, but not in this movie.
So that becomes problem. So like that's usually how they kind of box her in a bit, kind of like how because there's other heroes like Superman or Flash, for example, that are just way too powerful if you take their powers as far as they can
or
go.
Like even if you look at like the Avengers, the Hulk and Thor are like way more powerful than like Hawkeye.
Right.
So yeah, they have to. I understand they have to do that with these characters, but I like the fact that they face that. She comments several times, "Why don't I just portal?" And and she comments about how overpowered portals are and how they always forget about them.
Yeah.
But that's like one of her most useful powers. But yeah, I have that because she does a portal here and says that portals are so overpowered or something along those lines. And then we get a Slade kaiju.
Yeah, it's more like a mech suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got like a mech warrior, a Gundam or something,
Yeah, so he gets really big, and so that's the giant robot. Like, climactic fight. Yeah.
Which they beat him by doing their song from the beginning of the movie.
The beginning of the movie.
But this time they actually fight him during the song.
Yes, and then Superman and the rest of the Justice League comes in and tells them, that there's goofsters, but they are good at being heroes, or they're real heroes, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Also, so the movie ends, and I know you laughed at this. The movie ends with, I can't even remember who popped up on screen and said it, but somebody just pops up on screens and said, "Ask your parents where babies come from." Like right at the end of the movie.
Yeah, that was funny.
And that's how the movie basically ends.
Basically, yeah. There was a line that we skipped over somewhere earlier in the movie where Robin goes, "Why did you do that to Superman? He's a national treasure."
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, they did do that.
They did do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get, the mid-credit scene, which you've touched on a little bit, which is the original Teen Titans from the cartoon meeting up with Teen Titans Go and like saying that something is happening or something like that. And when this came out, I don't know if you remember, but when this movie came out, we were doing the Screen Heroes podcast,
Mhm.
and this was a super. This got the internet like freaking out because there were two fan bases, right? There were the Teen Titans fan base and the Teen Titans Go fan base, and there was a little crossover, but there was a whole very strict group of people that were like, Teen Titans Go is childish, it's stupid, and Teen Titans is my cartoon. That's what I grew up with.
Mhm.
And so when that was basically a hint that they were going to bring the original Teen Titans into the fold again.
Right.
People flipped out over that, either in hatred or excitement or both.
Yeah. It's kind of sad, right? Because there's other franchises like the Ninja Turtles or Power Rangers or Transformers. Well, they'll do all these generational crossover things, and it's really cool. It becomes these big fan events, and everyone gets on board, and they bring back actors and stuff. And for some reason, this was like a huge hot button. Of all the problems with DC, this was the hot button for some reason. Right. I don't know. It's okay if they make a show for kids and you're not a kid anymore. That's okay.
Yeah.
Not every piece of content needs to be for you. And if you did enjoy it, cool. The more the merrier, right? But I don't know why people have to be like so aggressive about it.
It's a little disheartening. But that movie did end up coming out and was enjoyable. If you like this movie, Derek, maybe you would like to go check that one out.
So there's a couple others, because there's that one. They did one with Space Jam too. Teen Titans Go to Space Jam.
I haven't seen that one.
I think we're going to watch all of them at this point, because I think this was it was really fun. It was very meta. It was clearly made by people who know the history and the material, and they care deeply about it. And they're just writing it toward primarily a younger audience, which is fine.
But then there's jokes that adults can get too, which is good for people like you that have a young child and you're forced to watch hours and hours of these, this content. And if there's nothing for you in there, then, it's much harder to get through. But if there's stuff for you, like, for example, Bluey is something that I've heard a lot about, that it's a kid's show, but then there's a lot of content that's, more adult, or more targeting adults, or something like this where, you get the kids' humor, but every now and then they throw something that there's no way a kid out there is going to pick up on it. A reference to some movie that was made 40 years before they were born or something like that. And that's something that's good for you.
I think a lot of it comes down to, are the writers writing down to the kids, or are they writing at the kids? I think that's the big difference. When you write at the kids, then it's all very purposeful and you still have good writing mechanics, just meant for a specific audience. Too many of these shows write down to the kids. They're very condescending. They're pandering, right? And this isn't that, right? Bluey isn't that. And there's some obvious other examples. If anybody wants some suggestions, just let me know.
Hit Derek up. I think that you're right when you say that the people that make this are just genuine DC fans, because I mean, it's not even just like those obscure references, in dialogue. You go to the Teen Titans house, which we don't see much of in this, but on the table there's like Green Lantern rings for cereal, like it's a cereal there, or there's like a Darkseid plush next to the couch, or it's just like these random things that they're clearly just taking any opportunity they can to either make like a jab at DC or just make something fun with DC content in their universe. You know what I mean? And that's how you can tell it's really made with love. It's not even just the actual movie. It's all these little little things in the movie. Like you said, every scene there's something that you
Mhm.
can find that's obviously done with a tremendous amount of respect and love for the characters.
Yeah, it was good. Like just all around, it was a lot of fun. I know the Titans themselves can be kind of confusing because there are so many versions of these characters. There's you know this version where they're seemingly the youngest that we ever
Yeah.
see them. There's stuff in between, and then there's stuff where they're adults. Between the original Teen Titans, the live action Titans, you've got Young
Young
Justice
Justice
is
had some
kind
of the
of
Titans characters.
right. Yeah, and then of course they've had their own comics. A lot of them have had standalone comics and have things like that. So they're a strange group of people,
Yeah,
and it's kind of hard to fit them into a box. And the movie had to come up with some way to do that. And I thought they did. I thought picking the meta route is the right way to go with these characters at this
for
point
sure.
because they acknowledge everything else about them, and they're like, okay, so like we know, but let's do the story. And I think
Right.
that works.
I agree. I enjoyed this movie. I'm glad that you finally watched it and enjoyed it and now want to consume more of that content. I think the whole Teen Titans Go show is on HBO Max. So
Yeah.
if you ever want to catch up, they have the Doom Patrol on at one point. Like
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, they really talk about deep cuts throughout the whole DC universe, but no other Nic Cage voice anything, I don't think. Maybe in one of the other movies, but
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think this is the only one that he showed up in, according to IMDb, anyway. And
Okay.
look, it was a small part. It's not a whole lot to glean from him personally, but it was fun. I think it was
No,
a
but yeah,
fun
and you
role.
could tell just listening to him that he had fun with the role. So
Exactly.
okay, well, I guess we got to rate this thing, huh?
Yeah. So we rate these 0 to 20. 0 is low, 20 is high. We have overall quality of the film, and then we have overall caginess, which is going to be a little weird in this one. But for overall quality, I really liked it. At the end of the day, it is a kids movie, but I thought it was really fun. So I'm going to rate this fairly high. I'm probably going to give it, I don't know, probably like a 15.
That's where I was at with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really good. It's, is it a great Nic Cage film? No, not really, but I mean, is it a great film? Especially if you have a kid or you're just like a really deep DC fan. I think you'll have fun with this if you can get past the art style, which I don't mind the art style, but a lot of people do, so.
No, it's fine. Like I love animation, and I love that there are so many different styles of animation. I have some personal favorites, but there really aren't that many I quote like straight up dislike.
Yeah,
It's just different.
I agree.
You know,
So then caginess is kind of a weird one with this. I mean, he does call them goofsters, which is pretty great. But it's not really done in a cagey way. You know what I mean? Or whatever the line about diarrhea was. I would rate this pretty low on the caginess scale because it's not really super cagey in this. Probably like a 2 or a 3.
Yeah,
Is that where you're at?
I was gonna give it a 2. Yeah, I felt
No.
like there's a little something there when he does talk, but he talks so little that
It's always harder. I think we mentioned this with the Crudes also. It's always harder in animated because so much of what makes a cageism is his physical. It's not just the vocal, it's also very physical. So if
yeah.
the animation doesn't necessarily translate that physical, then it's harder for us to see it as cagey. So yeah, this one's going to be a low one.
All right, so 15 on quality, 2 on caginess. We got to figure out what movie now is going to join our Wheel of Cage, replacing Teen Titans Go to the Movies. And the movie that's joining the wheel is The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Oh, I have seen that one.
I have
It's been
not.
a long time.
I've wanted to see it.
I saw it in theaters. Jay
Nice.
Baruchel, right? I think.
Yeah. That would be fun. So if you want to find out which movie we're going to be talking about next time on the show, go to comingofcage.com and watch out for the next Wheel o' Cage episode where we will spin to find out what movie is next. Ryan, anything else on Teen Titans Go to the Movies?
No, I think we covered it.
Awesome. Well, it's good to be back. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Nicolas Cage movie fun. Go to comingofcage.com. I'm Derek. That's Ryan. We'll catch you next time.